Every morning I felt nauseous. The doctors couldn't find anything. One day in the subway, a jeweler touched me. "Take off the pendant. I can see what's inside." I sharply pulled my hand away. "My husband gave it to me for our anniversary." The man quietly said, "Open it in front of me." If these stories mean something to you, please subscribe. Your subscription means more to me than you can imagine. It's motivation. It's the reason I keep telling these stories. And write in the comments where you're watching from. And now, let's begin. Rina Melnikova, a young woman from Ekaterinburg, whose perfect life began to fall apart because of a gift, a beautiful pendant. For 5 years, Rina believed she was living in a fairy tale. She and her husband, Artyom Sergeyevich Volkov, were the embodiment of modern success. They had a stylish apartment in the very center of Ekaterinburg on Malasheva Street, with large windows overlooking the busy city center. Artyom was a promising senior analyst at a large investment bank, a man who wore custom suits and spoke with calm confidence. Rina, a talented graphic designer, worked from her bright, spacious home studio, taking on projects for clients all over Russia. They talked about starting a family, planning to take that step as soon as Artyom received his next big promotion. Life was like a perfectly orchestrated symphony following the score they had written together. But 6 months ago, the music stopped. A dissonant, terrifying chord sounded, and it all began with what seemed like the most caring gesture. It was their 5th wedding anniversary. That evening, Artyom came home not with his usual tired look, but with a wide, sincere smile and a small box wrapped in shimmering gold paper. Rina had spent the day preparing his favorite meal, a juicy beef dish with crispy fried potatoes and a delicate beet salad. The dining table was set with flickering candles, and soft melodies of a Russian piano concerto flowed from the speakers. Everything was ready for a perfect romantic evening. "Happy anniversary, my love," Artyom whispered, placing the box into her hands. Inside, on a bed of black velvet, lay a pendant. It was undeniably beautiful. A thin, elegant silver chain held a heart-shaped charm. But it wasn't an ordinary delicate pendant. The heart was larger than usual, about the size of a large coin, and its surface was intricately covered with fine floral engravings. It was a work of art. "Artyom, it's stunning," Rina breathed, carefully taking it out of the box. "Let me help," he said, taking the pendant from her. He stood behind her, and she felt the cool touch of his fingers on the back of her neck. As he fastened the clasp, a shiver ran down her spine, which she attributed to the romance of the moment. "It looks perfect on you," he whispered, his lips close to her ear. "Promise me you'll never take it off. I want it to be a symbol of our love, always with you." The request was a little unusual, but it seemed so deeply sentimental that she didn't hesitate. "I promise," she said, touching the cool silver heart now resting just below her throat. She couldn't have known that this promise would become a noose, slowly tightening around her neck. For the first few weeks, everything was wonderful. The pendant was comfortable, constant, a beautiful reminder of her husband's love. Her friends admired it during video calls, and her colleague Lena joked that Artyom had set an incredibly high bar. Artyom himself seemed happier than he had in years, more attentive, more affectionate. Rina thought they were entering a new, deeper phase of their relationship. Then the illness began. It started subtly, a slight wave of nausea every morning. She blamed it on something she had eaten, or perhaps lingering food poisoning. Artyom, the eternal optimist, suggested she might be pregnant. The idea excited them both, but the home test came back negative. The nausea didn't go away. It grew stronger. Every morning turned into a battle with her own stomach. She woke up with a feeling of oppressive dread, spending long minutes in the bathroom while the world around her swayed. She began to lose weight. Her appetite became a distant memory until the second half of the day. "This isn't right, Rina," Artyom said one morning, frowning with concern as she came out of the bathroom pale and trembling. "You need to see a doctor. I'll make an appointment with a good therapist." Her doctor at a private clinic on Lenin Avenue ran numerous tests, blood work, urine tests, a full examination. Everything was normal. I can't find anything wrong, Rina Mikhailovna, the doctor said, frowning at her chart. Perhaps it's stress. Are you under any unusual pressure? Nothing more than usual, she replied weakly. Let's observe it, the doctor advised. If it continues, we'll dig deeper. And it did continue. It got worse. Constant dull headaches appeared, a steady pain at the base of her skull that spread forward. Over-the-counter painkillers were useless. An overwhelming, crushing fatigue took over. She could sleep for 10 hours and wake up feeling as if she hadn't slept at all. Her appearance began to change. Her skin took on an ashen, grayish tone. Deep purple shadows carved themselves under her eyes, untouched by any concealer. Her nails became brittle, and her once thick hair began to fall out in alarming clumps. Artyom was a reliable support. He took her from one specialist to another, a neurologist, a gastroenterologist, an endocrinologist. They spent a small fortune on consultations, MRIs, CT scans, and allergy tests. The results were always the same. We can't find anything. It's driving me crazy, she confessed to him one night, lying in the darkness of their bedroom. I feel like I'm dying, and no one can tell me why. Her hand rested on her throat, a habit she had developed. She absent-mindedly fingered the silver heart. I know, my love, Artyom comforted her, stroking her hair. But we'll find the answer, don't worry. He noticed her hand on the pendant. You're still wearing it every day, he said with a gentle smile. Of course, she said. I promised you. You're the best wife in the world, he said, kissing her forehead. But something in his voice that night sounded false. It was a barely noticeable shade of satisfaction that felt completely out of place under the circumstances. She told herself it was paranoia, that the illness was making her irrational. 3 months turned into 4. Rina had lost nearly 10 kilograms. Her friends were deeply worried. Her younger sister Elisa called her one evening. Her face on the video screen twisted with fear. Rina, you look terrible, like a ghost. What's happening? I don't know, Elisa, Rina admitted. Her voice was an empty echo of her former self. Have you thought it could be psychological? Depression? The doctors thought so too. I went to a psychologist. She said I don't show signs of clinical depression or an anxiety disorder. That's so strange, Elisa said, biting her lip. And Artyom, how is he handling this? He's been incredible, Rina admitted. He supports me in everything, takes me to all the appointments, makes sure I eat. I don't know what I'd do without him. And it was true. On the surface, Artyom was a model husband. He cooked, cleaned, took care of everything. He never complained when her income dropped. He constantly reassured her that her health was the only thing that mattered. But there were tiny, almost invisible cracks in the facade. For example, when she accidentally splashed water on the pendant while washing dishes, Artyom sharply said, "Be careful with that." His reaction was so harsh, so disproportionate, that it frightened her. Another time, her mother suggested she take off all her jewelry for a while. What if she had developed an allergy to metal? Artyom immediately and icily rejected the idea. That's nonsense. She's worn silver before and never had any problems. Besides, he added with strange finality, this pendant is special. It's our symbol. It would be wrong to take it off. One afternoon, after another fruitless and frustrating visit to the gastroenterologist, Rina decided to take a short walk before going home. Artyom had dropped her off, but he had an important meeting, so she planned to return by subway. It was around noon. The platform at the Ploshchad 1905 Goda station wasn't very crowded. She took an empty seat in the train car, closed her eyes, and let the rhythmic movement of the train lull her. Her hand, as always, found the pendant, tracing its edges. "Excuse me," a voice said beside her. Rina opened her eyes. An elderly man had sat down next to her. He looked to be in his late 60s, with neatly combed gray hair, a short well-groomed beard, and glasses with a thin metal frame. He was dressed in a dark, expensive but understated suit. His hands, resting on his knees, were long-fingered and immaculate. "Yes?" Rina asked cautiously. "Forgive the intrusion," the man said in a soft, cultured voice. "I'm a jeweler by profession, 40 years in the trade. I couldn't help but notice your pendant." Instinctively, Rina covered the heart with her hand. "It's very beautiful," he continued. "But there's something unusual about it." "What do you mean?" she asked, and a small alarm bell rang in her mind. The man leaned slightly closer, squinting to get a better look. "The weight isn't right. A silver pendant of that size should be lighter. And the way it hangs. There's something inside. I'm almost certain." "Inside?" Her heart started pounding. "Inside? What do you mean, inside?" "May I?" he asked, extending his hand. After a second's hesitation, Rina nodded. He carefully took the pendant between 2 fingers, turned it, felt it, pressed lightly in different places. "Yes," he murmured, more to himself. "There's definitely something inside. This pendant opens like a locket, but the mechanism is exceptionally well hidden." "Opens?" Rina repeated, confused. "My husband gave it to me. He never said it opens." The jeweler looked up at her. His expression became serious. "Miss, I'm going to tell you something, and please don't take it the wrong way. A pendant with a hidden compartment. In my 40 years, I've seen this specific design only a few times. And it was never intended to store anything pleasant inside." The blood drained from Rina's face. "What do you mean?" "These lockets are made to hold substances, liquids, powders. Yes, I've seen them used for perfume, but I've also seen darker uses." He paused. His eyes studied her face. "You've been feeling unwell lately." "Nausea for no apparent reason." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. How could he know that? "There's a slight yellowish tint in your eyes," the man continued gently. "Your skin is pale, your hands are slightly trembling, and the way you keep touching your stomach. I'd bet you have chronic nausea." "How?" she finally whispered. "Because those are classic symptoms of gradual poisoning," the man said simply. "And if there's something inside this pendant that is slowly releasing a toxic substance against your skin, near your throat, so close to your respiratory system." He didn't finish the sentence. Rina felt sick. The train was moving, but the world seemed to spin around her. "No," she shook her head fiercely. "That's impossible. My husband loves me. He gave it to me for our anniversary." "Miss," the man's voice was kind but firm, "you need to open that pendant and see what's inside. If I'm wrong, I will sincerely apologize for alarming you. But if I'm right..." Her thoughts raced. She remembered the symptoms, the doctors who found nothing, how it all started right after she began wearing the pendant. She remembered how RTM insisted she never take it off, his overreaction when it got wet, the way he always checked if she was wearing it. "I can't believe my husband could do something like this," she said, but her voice sounded weak even to her own ears. "Then open it in front of me," the man suggested. "Prove me wrong. I'll show you where the mechanism is." The train pulled into a station. People got on and off. The man didn't move. "How long have you been wearing it?" he asked. 6 months. The symptoms started right away. "Maybe after a week." He nodded, as if that confirmed his suspicion. "You need to take it off right now," he said. "Even if I'm wrong about the poisoning, you're clearly having a reaction to it. Your health is more important than any piece of jewelry." He was right. Her hands trembled as she reached for the clasp at the back of her neck. "Let me," the man said. "Allow me." With skillful, experienced fingers, he unclasped it. The pendant fell into her hands. For the first time in 6 months, her neck was bare. It was a strange feeling, but she swore she could breathe a little deeper. "Now," the man said, taking the pendant from her palm, "the opening mechanism on designs like this is usually here." He pressed his thumbnail against a nearly invisible seam on the side of the silver heart. There was a soft, barely audible click. The pendant opened like a small shell. Inside, in a perfectly carved cavity in the silver, lay a small glass capsule about the size of a large pill. It was sealed at both ends with something resembling dark wax. And inside the capsule was a clear liquid, slightly thicker than water, faintly shimmering. The man and the woman stared at it in stunned silence. "This shouldn't be here," the jeweler finally said. His voice was tense. "This isn't perfume or anything innocent. The glass is probably made to be slightly permeable, allowing tiny amounts of vapor to slowly escape, a slow-release mechanism." Tears silently streamed down Rina's face. "My husband was trying to kill me," she whispered. The words sounded surreal as they left her lips. "Legally, I can't confirm that," the man said carefully. "But you need to go to the police right now. Don't go home. Don't tell your husband that you know. Just go straight to the police." "But why?" Rina sobbed. "We've been married for 5 years. I thought he was happy." The man carefully closed the pendant, making sure the clasp clicked shut. "Money is often the motive," he said. "Do you have life insurance? An inheritance?" Rina's thoughts snapped into place. Yes, she had a substantial life insurance policy, something her father had insisted on when she got married. And recently, she had inherited a valuable piece of land from her grandfather, a plot on the outskirts of the city that developers were eager to buy. Artyom had been pressuring her to sell it, but she wanted to keep it for sentimental reasons. "Yes," she admitted. "A life insurance policy for 5 million rubles. And I inherited land 8 months ago." The jeweler nodded sadly. "That would explain it. 6 months of gradual illness leading to what would appear to be a natural death. Doctors have already documented your symptoms. When you died, they would likely have attributed it to some undiagnosed autoimmune disease or organ failure. He would receive the insurance, inherit the land, and no one would suspect anything." It was too much. Rina broke down completely. The man reached into his pocket and handed her a clean handkerchief. "I'm very sorry," he said. "I know this is devastating. But at least now you know, and you can save yourself." The train slowed as it approached the next station. The man stood up. "This is my stop. But please, listen to me. Go straight to the police. Not home. No calls to your husband. Show them the pendant. Ask them to analyze the liquid. Take care of yourself." He pulled a business card from his wallet and handed it to her. "My name is Boris Arkadyevich Goncharov. I have a small jewelry workshop on Malasheva Street. If the police need my testimony, I will testify. I also have contacts in a laboratory that can analyze the substance." "Thank you," Rina managed to say. "Thank you for saving my life." "Take care," Boris Arkadyevich said, and stepped out of the train car. Rina sat there, clutching the pendant in her trembling hands as the subway continued its journey. A storm of emotions raged in her mind: disbelief, anger, and heartbreaking grief. Part of her still couldn't accept it. Artyom, her Artyom, the man she loved, had been systematically poisoning her. But the evidence lay cold and heavy in her palm. She took out her phone. 3 messages from Artyom. "How did the appointment go? Are you heading home? I have a late meeting. Love you." The last message made her physically nauseous. "Love you." How could he type those words while she wore his poison against her skin? She didn't reply. Instead, she searched for the nearest police station. There was one at the next stop, on Radishchev Street. She got off the train. Her legs barely held her as she walked 2 blocks to the station. It was a gray, utilitarian building. She went inside and approached the duty officer. "I need to speak to someone," she said. The officer looked at her pale, tear-streaked face and immediately sat her down and called an investigator. Major Irina Petrovna Sorokina arrived a few minutes later. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail and an air of calm competence. Rina told her everything: the symptoms, the doctors, the pendant, the jeweler in the subway. She opened the pendant and showed the capsule. Investigator Sorokina examined it in gloves. "This needs to be analyzed immediately," she said. "I also need you to go to a forensic specialist right now so we can document your condition and take blood and hair samples. If you're being poisoned, we need medical evidence." "You believe me?" Rina asked, a wave of relief washing over her. "I've seen cases like this," the investigator admitted. "More often than you'd think. The symptoms you describe are consistent with heavy metal poisoning. We'll get to the bottom of this." Rina was taken to a hospital, where a forensic specialist collected samples. The pendant was sent to a laboratory. Investigator Sorokina advised her not to return home. "Is there somewhere you can stay safely? Family? Friends?" "My sister Elisa," Rina said. "Good. Go to her. Don't tell your husband where you are. If he asks, we can say you're in the hospital for additional tests. In the meantime, we'll look into his finances, his past. If he's doing this for money, there will be a trail." The call to Elisa was devastating. When Rina told her what she had discovered, there was a long, stunned silence on the other end of the line. "I'm coming," Elisa finally said, her voice full of tears. "Don't move." Elisa arrived 20 minutes later, driving like crazy across the city. She pulled Rina into such a tight embrace that she could barely breathe. "Bastard," Elisa whispered, trembling with rage. "We all trusted him." The lab results came back within 36 hours. The liquid in the capsule turned out to be thallium, a tasteless, odorless, and extremely toxic heavy metal salt, historically used as rat poison. Analysis of Rina's hair showed elevated levels of thallium consistent with exposure over the past 6 months. The toxicologist explained that in another 2 to 3 months, the buildup would have been fatal. Her death would have appeared as multi-organ failure of unknown origin. Investigator Sorokina's team wasted no time. They discovered that Artyom Volkov was deeply in debt. He owed more than 2 million rubles to various creditors, including some with questionable reputations. They found that 8 months earlier, right after Rina inherited the land, he had tried to take out a loan using it as collateral but failed because it was registered solely in her name. And 7 months ago, he forged Rina's signature to double her life insurance policy to 10 million rubles, making himself the sole beneficiary. Rina listened to this list of betrayals, and a cold numbness took over her. The man she had shared her life with was a stranger, a monster in a beautiful mask. "It was all a lie," she said quietly. "All of it." That same evening, investigator Sorokina went to arrest Artyom at their apartment. Rina wasn't there, but Elisa later told her she had seen it on the news. Artyom was being led out in handcuffs. He shouted that it was a mistake, that his wife was mentally ill and had gotten everything wrong. Neighbors gathered outside, staring at the scene. At the station, faced with the evidence, his lawyer quickly realized the case was airtight. A deal was made. Artyom Volkov pleaded guilty to attempted murder in exchange for a reduced sentence. 15 years in a high-security penal colony. But the story doesn't end there. And this is where the narrative takes an unexpected turn. The trial became a media sensation in Ekaterinburg. Rina had to sit in the courtroom and listen to the chilling details of her own planned murder. The most painful moment came when she was called to testify and had to look him in the face. For a split second, she saw the man she thought she had married, the man who had held her, laughed with her, promised her a future. Then the mask disappeared, and she saw only the empty eyes of someone who had tried to steal her life. She testified clearly. Her voice was steady. She told the story from the anniversary dinner to the stranger in the subway. Boris Arkadyevich Goncharov also testified. His calm, professional manner gave tremendous weight to the evidence. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours. The verdict was guilty. But the twist came a month after the sentencing. Rina was slowly rebuilding her life, living in a small new apartment near Elisa, when she received a letter. It wasn't from Artyom in prison, but from a lawyer representing a woman she had never known. The letter explained that the jeweler, Boris Arkadyevich, had passed away peacefully in his sleep. In his will, he had left a small sealed box to the young woman from the subway. With trembling hands, Rina opened it. Inside, on a velvet cushion, lay a new pendant. It was a simple, elegant piece, a thin silver chain with a small openwork pendant shaped like a forget-me-not flower. Beneath it lay a note, written in neat, elderly handwriting. Dear Rina, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer here. I wanted you to have this. It is a simple thing. No compartments, no hidden poisons. It is simply a symbol of life, hope, and those small, beautiful coincidences that save us. You taught me in my final years that it is never too late to do something meaningful. Wear this in good health, and remember that for every dark heart, there is a stranger willing to help. With deepest respect and love. Boris Arkadyevich Goncharov. Rina sat in her quiet apartment, the letter in one hand and the delicate forget-me-not pendant in the other. A stranger on the train had saved her. And now that same stranger had reached out from beyond the grave to give her one final gift, a symbol not of love that kills, but of human kindness that heals. She fastened the new chain around her neck. The silver felt cool and light against her skin. It felt like freedom. It felt like hope. It felt, at last, like a gift. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, please like, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories. And remember, the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a lie.